Now from Pittsburgh is Susie Madrak, who is the founder of Suburban Gorilla, a blog that she writes on. And she is coming to us from Pittsburgh, where they have just concluded Netroots Nation, the annual national convention of liberal bloggers and activists. We'll get to that in just a few seconds. But first, Susie Madrak, tell us, where did you come up with the name Suburban Gorilla? How did that happen?
When I was a newspaper reporter and editor, I wrote a political column for Delaware County in Pennsylvania, and it's considered to be the suburban Republican counterpart to the Chicago Daily Democratic Machine. And I kind of like the idea, you know, so it was suburban and it was guerrilla, because these guys kind of ran everything, and it was, you know, they weren't used to people taking real pot shots at them.
So tell us a little bit about Netroots Nation, and what is it that's been going on up there this past week?
Well, it depends on who you are. I skip most of the panels because this is just an opportunity for me to meet and talk with and network with these people, my online colleagues that I'm in contact with and supportive of the rest of the year. But there's all kinds of great panels, you know, for people who aren't bloggers. All kinds of information about how you can be effective in your community, how you can get things done. You know, it's really fun. I mean, that's the thing. You know, it sounds dry and boring. It really is a lot of fun, and I look forward to it every year.
Now, one panel that you did not skip was one that you actually moderated between Senator Specter and Representative Sestak, who is running to replace Senator Specter. Tell us a little bit about that panel discussion.
Well, it was interesting because I thought that Senator Specter said something newsworthy that I didn't see the New York Times pick up this morning when they covered it, which was that Senator Specter said that the Republicans in Congress had gotten together and decided before the inauguration that they were going to oppose any stimulus bill put forth by President Obama so that they could break him. I thought that that was interesting, but apparently nobody else was paying attention. And Senator Specter talked about his record. I mean, there's a fairly deep mistrust of Senator Specter in the blogosphere because he does this really interesting thing. And see, I grew up in Philadelphia, and Senator Specter has been representing me in one form or another for 40 years. And what he does is he comes out and makes a very impassioned speech about something, you know, and he'll say, this is wrong, and this is unconstitutional, and you know, this simply can't stand, and then he turns around and votes for it. You know, and I asked him about that, and he said, well, you know, you have to look at individual votes. And I thought, well, no, I mean, because you know, I don't have that great a memory, and if I've noticed this pattern, I'm sure it's there.
Well, the panel was covered by the Philadelphia Inquirer, and the headline, Specter, Sestak make pitches. Specter tells bloggers and activists he was working hard to support Obama's health plan. Sestak links him to Bush. C-SPAN also covered your panel discussion with these two gentlemen, and we'd like to show the audience a little bit of what happened there, and then we'll continue our discussion.
This is kind of an odd question, but I think it's something that comes up a lot here at this conference. And it's what I would call the Netroots "Will you still love me tomorrow" syndrome. You know, we go out on dates with candidates. They say all the right things. They buy us dinner and tell us we're pretty. And then it's all they can do to get as far away from us as possible. You know, we're kind of like the girl that they had under the bleachers but won't take to the prom.
So what was the response of Representative Sestak and Senator Specter regarding that sort of romantic kind of allusion that you made to politics?
Well, this was during the second half. They weren't together. They weren't on the stage at the same time.
Okay.
And this happened during Joe Sestak's segment. And actually, we had a really good response from him because, see, one of the problems that we have being effective in the blogosphere is that we started this tactic of we would say, you know what, here's a marginal race out here in, you know, Wisconsin or Oregon or Minnesota, and we're going to get a lot of small contributions from all over the country, and we're going to target that race and see if we can't take that seat back for a Democrat. But what happens is they see all these little $25 contributions come in, but they don't really see it as coming from us. They don't, they don't really think of us as a lobby like they would anybody else or a caucus. So they tend to just say, you know what, I represent my constituents and I represent, the people who gave me large contributions. And as I pointed out to Joe Sestak yesterday, I had taken a look at his campaign contributions from when he first ran for Congress, and I said, far and away, your largest contributor were the Netroots. But there's no way that we can consider you our guy in Congress the way that a lot of other lobbyists do when they give that much money to help somebody win. And he said, I never thought of it.
Well, let's see.
When I spoke, I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that when I spoke to him when I spoke to him afterward, he said that he was going to see if he could put together a Netroots caucus of congressional members who had been helped by the blogosphere, in terms of funding, and see if they couldn't work together and address issues together that were our concern. I thought, which was great. I mean, how often do you get a result from something like that?
If our viewers and listeners would like to get involved in the conversation with Susie Madrak, founder of Suburban Guerrilla, the numbers 202-737-0001 for Republicans, Democrats 202-737-0002, Independents 202-628-0205. Again, the addresses for emails, journal@cspan.org. And those sending us messages via Twitter, the address there is cspanwj. Our first call comes from Florida. Mike on our line for Democrats. Is that Mariana? I'm sorry.
Mariana, Florida.
Mariana,
yes,
Florida. Go ahead.
Yes. First of all, I'm active duty, retired military, United States Navy, over 20 years. I have health care because of my service. However, I've got a conscience and a heart. I believe we need health care reform in this country. And I've just got a couple of observations, then I'd like to get your opinion. In Inglewood, California this week, there were thousands lined up and camped out for 3 days to see a doctor. CBS News reported it. It was on the front page of the New York Times, from what I understand. CNN said not one word. I call CNN constantly. The negative portrayal by the 24-hour news channels, in my opinion, with the angry protesters, the negative views expressed constantly, has led to, in my opinion, a decline in the chances for health care reform in this country, and a decline in the popularity of our president because of what they have portrayed. This was also expressed on Bill Moyer's The Journal on PBS and this week with the discussion that he had. So those are my points. Those are my observations.
Mike, thanks for those observations. And on top of that, Susie Madrak, the lead story in the Philadelphia Inquirer this morning, says Obama is saying that the media is overplaying the protests. Quote, TV loves a ruckus, he said. In Montana, he fielded polite, occasionally tough questions. Your thoughts?
Well, absolutely. I was a journalist for 20 years, and I'll tell you this, reporters are lazy. They're really lazy, and I don't think most people understand that there's nowhere near as much fact-checking going on as they think there is. People have a tendency to think, oh, I saw it on TV, it's true. It's not. I would send reporters back all the time with stories, and I'd say, no, you have a big hole in the story, you need to fix it. And of course, they would get really mad at me, and I'm sure a lot of those people were promoted up through the ranks through the years. Maybe they even work at CNN. But the thing is that also with the 24-hour news channels, what happens is when they have a mistake in a story, once the mistake is there, they very rarely go back and fix it. And they have to fill up a big news hole on a 24-hour channel. So they keep repeating the same erroneous story with that error in it over and over and over. And I've seen this so many times I can't even count. And of course, then you have, Fox News. One of their favorite tricks is that whenever a Republican congressperson is caught in some kind of a scandal, now, and watch this, kids, you can play along at home. They will always put a D after their name when they run the news story. So, don't believe what you see on television.